Hello and welcome to Women's World on Global Television, the program where we spotlight issues, challenges, narratives, and provide solutions that shape our society. I am Kike Lomo Okere and I'm joined by my amazing co-host Priscilla Obasi and Anita Patrick.
Hi Kike.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good to be here again.
Good to see you.
Amazing day to talk about the issues around women and of course how we shape the society every day.
Yeah, that's true. All right, today we are having a conversation that is long overdue because while we've made strong progress in empowering the girl child, many are beginning to ask, what about the boy child? Today we'll be discussing raising the boy child's rights, the role of women in building emotionally healthy, responsible, and resilient men.
Now, because the truth is, the kind of boys we raise today will determine the kind of men we live with tomorrow as husbands, as leaders, as colleagues, and as fathers.
Interestingly, Priscilla, and raising boys is not just about providing for them. It's about shaping their values, emotions, and mindsets. Kike.
And beyond parenting, there is also the influence of society, school, media, peer pressure, all shaping what boys think it means to be a man. We'll be breaking it down into three key areas: home, influence, social expectation, and emotional education. If we get this right, we are not just raising better boys, we are raising better societies. We will take a breather now. When we return, we will be joined by a passionate advocate who is also doing an incredible work in raising balanced and responsible young men right after the break. For too long, women were told to stay quiet, to endure in silence, to face challenges alone. But silence never define us.
Women are actually one of the best peace builders you can come across because they will build peace in the home front, they will build with their children, they will build in the community, they will build at their meetings and in their churches.
Across Nigeria and beyond, women are breaking barriers, from entrepreneurs building thriving businesses to mothers transforming communities to everyday women.
Women's World celebrates all sides of womanhood. We share untold stories of women from pain to victory.
This is more than a show, it is a platform for women to be seen, heard, and to be empowered.
Every story matters, every voice counts because women are empowered to change families, communities, and the nation.
Join us as we showcase women's untold stories.
From pain to victory.
This is Women's World on Global Television.
Your story, your health, your power. Welcome back to Women's World. Joining us today is a development advocate and a strong voice for the boy child, Anna Hussein Pai, founder and executive director of Yagote Foundation. Through initiatives like the Empower the Boy Child Project, she is mentoring boys, equipping them with life skills and building confident, responsible young men.
Anna, you're
Let's welcome Anna. Anna, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Hi, viewers.
I'm curious, how did you coin Yagote Foundation?
Yagote Foundation.
Okay, so it's the she version of Dangote.
Oh, that's serious.
Yeah, so we just wanted a name that was catchy, and when we get your attention, you now want to know, okay, so what's next? So we needed a name that was that catchy.
So Yagote is Hausa.
Yes, it's
what does
Hausa.
it mean?
So Dangote is son of Gote and Ergote is daughter of Gote. That's just the
Son, that's daughter and son of
Yeah.
Gote. Amazing, it's good to have you join us today.
Thank you.
And we kind of look like a similar color on our dress. Well, let's get straight to it. When we look at this society, we see a lot of concerns around the behavior or the mindset of the young man. And many people are asking or trying to trace it back to upbringing. So in your work and what you do, Why is it so important that we start off with being intentional about raising boy children, not child alone now? I'm putting them in general terms because in families we have a mother of boys. You know, she needs to have a better understanding how to bring them up. And then we have some who have to do with the girl child. So can we take it back to the beginning of raising the boy child, following the societal consigns?
Okay, so when you talk about raising the boy child, it should be all encompassing. You know, looking at what we're discussing today, it shouldn't be a focus on women alone, because a woman can only give what she has got. And when you look at the society generally, you see that more husbands rather, are educated. You know, it's easier for an educated man, an empowered man, to go and marry a woman that is not educated or empowered, because he wants to domesticate her, let her stay at home and take care of the children. So if you have that kind of woman in your house, what exactly is she going to teach the children? If she can't read, and maybe your children have gone to school and are back, what possibly can she look through in their books to say, what did you learn today? You know, and so a lot of men like to marry this kind of women because they feel they are easier to control. You know, I have a problem with that word because a lot of men misconstrue it. So, but back to the boy child, I mean, the woman can give as much as she has got. And these days you see that, you know, everywhere they'll say, oh yeah, the woman, her role is to groom the child. You know, as a woman, you can't teach beyond what you know again. And you are in your feminine mode. And even when you have to go into the masculine mode, you know, so long as you are not a man, there are things you cannot teach. Some of these things, the boys have to see the men do them, practicalize them, live them, you know. So the woman cannot live in a man's body, or you can't behave like a man. So you will only teach what you know. And then at the end of the day, you get blamed for certain lapses. So it's high time the men realize that those roles that they should play must be played by them.
Okay. That's quite ironic for me though, because most times when a woman gets married, you're blaming his mother.
Well, it's a cycle.
Yeah, it's
exactly a cycle. No, it still boils down to what I said.
It's an unending cycle, because you blame the mother for not doing a good job, and then you have sons that are going to be future husbands. Just as
and you see, at the point of marriage, sorry to chip this in, we have mothers that will tell their sons, don't allow her climb your head. Take charge, right? Then the mother of the wife will say, don't take what I took. You know, so before the parents are already setting the couple up for a clash.
Yes.
Because the bride is coming with this air of, well, not all mothers, but some mothers do it secretly, outwardly, like they're advising, oh, be good. You know, I hear this way, when your in-laws come, don't hide the food under the bed. Don't do this. Make sure you treat them well, blah, blah, blah. But then she draws her to the corner and say, don't take what I took. So it's a cycle.
And then his mother is telling him,
take charge. Don't allow her climb you. Don't allow her climb your head. That's the language they use. Yeah, we know what it means, but they use that language a lot. So it means just take charge, and taking charge based off of what he knows.
So I kind of feel like women are contributors to this unending cycle, because when I feel unhappy about maybe a character displayed by my husband, and I want to say, I don't think your mother did a good job, and then I have sons that I want to tell, don't allow anybody climb your head. Am I not repeating this cycle? I mean, what I feel, you know, what I expect of a husband, I should teach my sons to be that, so that the cycle ends. But we don't see that happening. We see women empower their sons to own their sons and feel bad about how their husbands treat them. I don't know if it makes sense to you.
Yes, it does. So now, the men that are grown are like grown trees that can't be bent.
Okay.
Now, when we speak with some men, I'll say, oh, you don't have to tell me where you're picking from, what I'm saying. Just pick whatever you can and apply. Now, these men are under so much pressure. They want to measure up in front of their peers that, oh, my wife, I have her under check and control. You know, so they don't want to display this issue of maybe something you said makes some sense. You know, they don't want to make you feel like you know more than them. So they will listen to what you're saying, but they're not going to acknowledge it openly that
It makes sense.
it makes sense. Now, because you know better, like I always say, act better. So if your husband does something, yeah, some of them, they don't listen, but there's a way you will pass your message, bearing in mind that your sons are watching. So whatever you display, you know, we're all humans, we're all children before we got to where we are today, and they'll say, oh, children emulate what they see more than, you know, what you tell them to do. But we were once upon a time there. This morning I was just thinking, I remembered an incident where as little children, the parents will feel like, oh, we can just do certain things and get away with it. The children, you know, they won't understand. But there was something that happened way back. I was very little. And I'm human. I mean, once you're born, you're born. Nobody should look at any child at whatever age and conclude that they won't understand. Something happened between my mom and my dad, and well, to them, I didn't understand. But like maybe 4 years back, I reminded my dad. I was like, so time, I was very little, AYB happened. And he was shocked. I said, yes. Maybe I was like 3 or 4. Yes. And well, I remember things a lot. Maybe not everybody can do that, but I remember things a lot. So there are things that happen. And I had a conversation recently with a guy, and he played a scenario that buttressed that point that I just made. That no matter how small you are, or you think a child is, rather, that child is watching. And whatever you do, you exhibit, is going to kind of influence. It's going to influence their decision, the decisions they take in the future. So yes, the men will not, easily agree to some or certain corrections, but now the onus is on us that know better to think of how best to present. So, quick example, when I'm angry with my husband, I'll tell him I'm not going to talk. Do whatever you're going to do, I will not talk. And I told him I need time to ease out the pressure, and then to think about the right words to use when I'm conversing about what happened. I don't want to speak in that angry mood, and I'll say things that I can't take back. Because you eventually will have to, calm down and forgive and have a conversation and move on. But if you say hurtful words at that moment of anger, you can't take it back. So I'll tell him, let me be whenever I'm angry. Let me cool off, and when I'm ready to talk, we'll talk about it.
So basically you're saying a woman has the responsibility of disciplining herself for the sake of her children.
Not just the woman. Both parents should be able to have that degree of discipline, of being able to hold or handle the situations in such a way that the children don't have to view some of these misunderstandings.
All right, I like the fact that you said both the parents have a lot of work to do on the children. Let's bring it closer home now, because everything starts from the family. Mother often plays a central role in any upbringing. How can a mother raise a boy child to become emotionally healthy and responsible man?
So again,
I'm quite emphatic on the mother.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that
again
cannot do this.
Again, you can't give what you don't have. You can't raise emotionally stable boys if you are not emotionally stable.
Exactly.
So that's why.
So again, the man has a role to play. If the woman is not happy for whatever reason, pretend as much as you want. I have friends that will say, oh, she was pretending everything was fine, but we already picked the clues. I've heard a story of a family where the children, now boys and girls, processed the divorce for their mother to get out of the yes.
Grown-up children.
Yes.
Very true.
So they've been watching what has been happening from childhood. Now they are grown. They can talk. They have a voice. They have the money. So she has been swallowing all sorts of things. She has been enduring all sorts of things because she wanted them to grow in a family unit. But now that they are grown, they processed the divorce for her. Like, get out of this place before he kills you.
Wow.
So if you're not emotionally stable, whether for financial reasons, for sexual reasons, for whatever emotional reasons, if you're not stable as a mother, how do you stabilize the children? So whichever way we look at it, both parents have a role, complementing roles. Yeah.
I like the fact that you just made it very clear, because of course I have every mindset surrounded by the fact that a man and a woman were meant to bring up the family units. There was a reason why the foundation was left for that. And of course, if you look at what it is today, like you also stated clearly, in the boy's life, there's always the need for a father figure who gives in the instruction and directives, which also helps in shaping the life of the boy child. So when we look at emotional intelligence, like you also said, it has to do with balancing the emotions, because when your emotions are balanced and in checks, which is where you're coming from a family where they've had battering and abuse. For that, at that point, the father is seen as the lion of the tribe of his house, because that's why I refer to such men. And then the woman is victimized to a point that she doesn't have much of the say. And in some scenarios, the boy takes up the father's attitude, definitely, and it becomes a cycle, just like you said, where he takes it into his own marriage. For him, it's a normal lifestyle. So how do we get to see men who would intentionally understand their role and perspective in shaping the boy's identity of his life when he steps out to adulthood?
So the father himself, or the man in general, first of all, you need to agree that you have a gap.
Okay.
The grown men we have today, for ego reasons, they don't really like accepting the fact that there are certain gaps. So they first of all have to accept that there are gaps that need to be filled. Because at the end of the day, if you don't know, you don't know it. That you are grown. Okay, exactly. I wanted to say something, but I decided not to. But that you're grown, you went through the different stages of school, you have served, you're working. The next thing is marriage. And that because, some people say, I have your type at home. That is an achievement, yes. But do you have the qualities to handle that situation? So if you don't have the qualities as a man or as a father, the fact still remains that you can't pass on what you don't have. You can't build something on nothing. You understand? So before we while we're dealing with the children now, like in the NGO, what we do, when we're doing the stakeholders engagement, when we cascade it down, we get to the parents, because the parents need to understand what we are teaching their boys. And because they need to reinforce learning at home. So there are times we'll say, okay, we taught them XYZ. Watch out. What is the new development? Are they, we will not get it 100% with all of the boys we're dealing with, but, a percentage should do. And so, in the course of dealing with the boys, we get to deal with the parents. So sometimes some parents will come and say, this thing, we need it more than even the boys. But you see, for economic reasons, you can't get the parents to stay that length of that period of time that we're dealing with the boys. So they have to go out to work. They have to they have to make ends meet for the sustenance of the family.
I feel like Nigerians feel parenting comes to you naturally. People don't know that you have to go and learn. You even take courses to learn parenting. There are people that don't even know that. But it's such a thing. But let's talk about, I like the fact that you still bring it back to the husband and the wife, or the man and the woman, as the case may be. And, the fact that both parties are needed. But there are situations where there are people that don't have active fathers. I know that we might suggest, go get a father figure. But a father figure cannot be as present as a father. And there's the roles that the mother has to step in such a situation. Before you think of a father figure, the child has misbehaved. You need to act fast. You need to correct the senses. As fast
So there are
as you can.
times that the father is available. But if you're going to be honest with yourself as a mother, you know that he's empty. So it's an intentional act to identify some father figures.
Even when you have a father.
Even when the father is available, like that's what I said, he might be available,
But not active.
but you know,
Not
some will not take any corrections or any suggestions. They are just there.
They're bearing the name of the father.
Physically. Yes, they've done what they need to do. The child has come forth, but that's just what they know. And maybe to provide food. But life is way beyond that. So if you know better as a mother, you can identify, you intentionally identify some role models or mentors, or both. You know, so for my boys, they have role models. They have fairly young people that are already doing well. That this is somebody you can look up to. You can want to model this kind of person. So sometimes I intentionally create an avenue where they spend time together. I don't want to be there. They are in a safe space. Yes, of course, I make sure. First of all, you have to even, check whoever it is that you're doing that connection with. So they are in a safe space. You can just be around that space, but let them have that man-to-man time, And sometimes these situations can come without you planning them, And then you can just say, oh, please, can you help me talk towards this vein? Or sometimes it could be a professional, because this person is in this field. Maybe your child says, I want to be an architect. Like my son, he says he wants to be an architect. So I think I've had him speak to like 2 or 3 architects so far. So anytime I'm around those people, I'll say, okay, he wants to be an architect, so please speak that language. So he'll be so excited, So there are different levels to this thing, and you just have to be intentional and know exactly what you want out of that interaction.
Okay, all right. So let's move beyond the home and into the school system. We focus so much on academic successes, but yet character development is key for me, because I look at it, we've talked about the girl child, we look at the home front, and when a woman wants to marry, the first thing I tell most young ladies is, fine man is good, but you won't eat fine man. It is character, because character is what will sustain your patient's drive.
That's true.
In staying in that home and taking some bad attitude, because someone taught me something. If somebody has a good attitude, it stays and it multiplies. If someone has a bad attitude, it stays and multiplies, because character is something you can easily pick up, but letting go is always a problem. So I'm thinking, what can we do that is enough to shape the boys' academics and also build character for the boys?
Just to add to what you're saying, in this part of the world, when a man wants to get married, you look at character.
For a woman.
So when a man wants to get married,
you look at the pockets.
Forget that character is also part of it.
Character is key.
You don't look at character. So character is built over time. What people pick and drop, or pick and not want to drop, are habits.
Okay.
So maybe you married. I know someone that got married. He wasn't smoking, and then I don't know how we finished school. You got married, and then you picked up the habit of smoking.
Don't you think something triggered it?
And smoking was smoking, not cigarettes, but weed, marijuana. Now, yes, something can trigger it, but because there was a gap as to how to process what was triggered and how to handle it, he fell to the other way, right? But if he had certain skills, he would have known how to handle, manage, and manipulate that situation. Okay. And I was shocked. I was like, throughout university years, you didn't. So for us to shape, like I said, it's habits that you pick easily from other people. Character is like already who you are. Yes, it can be influenced positively and negatively. But again, it's it's something that is molded from the home front, like we keep saying. It has to come
Everything has to
from
come
the
foundation.
home front. Now, a lot of parents leave these responsibilities to the teachers. The teachers have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of students in their class that they have to deal with, all kinds of characters, the stubborn ones, the calm ones, the slow writers, the slow these, all sorts. Then they have paperwork to mark, they have schemes to write, they have their own lives to live, they probably have their own families. So at what point do you expect the school to shape or to,
The part of the child.
you understand? And then a lot of schools try to cover up a lot of happenings, a lot of things that happen, a lot of issues that come up in schools, because they don't want to lose their students. They don't want to, their population shouldn't reduce. Every school is scrambling to get more students. So a lot of things happen, and even the parents are shielded. Like they don't want any negative news coming out of their schools. So especially the private schools. So they will want to, shield that incident from the public. So when you don't report such, how will that child get help? Once in a while, these things end up coming out to the public, and you now start hearing, oh, it's been happening. This happened. They didn't allow us to talk. That happened. It has happened. I don't want to mention schools, but at least I know 2 schools that, it was big. It was all over the news and all. But things had been happening. But for the image of the school, they were covering
That's
it. So
pure PR.
when you cover up such, it's going to keep happening.
Of course.
And you, the parent, you're at home and thinking, oh, I paid, so millions, it's the best of schools, the character is this. It's all pretense. So you at home have to be intentional about what your child, how the path you want it to be. So I'm thinking about when we teach the boys goal setting.
Okay.
That's amongst the very first lessons we teach. And I always say, as a human being, as a man, you should have your goals.
Sure.
As a human now, as an individual. You should have goals for your family. So when you write about goals for your family, you now describe the kind of wife you want to marry. Do you want a working class woman? Do you want a woman that will be a stay-at-home mom? Do you want a fair lady? Do you want a dark one? You don't marry a dark one. I want her to become fair. That's
Looking
the
for
thing.
rice and beans.
Exactly. So now, in that particular set of goals, you now write probably I want 20 children. So when you meet this lady, you say, "Come, I want 20 children," and if it's not going to work with you, it's something that is going to be a problem later on.
Do we even teach our boy children the reality of having 20 children?
Well, I'm just exaggerating. I'm just exaggerating the scenario, but you need to let your spouse know, or your prospective spouse know.
You guys have to meet at the middle.
You have to agree even before the union.
Marriage doesn't come with all the maturity in the bag, right? Sometimes you learn, and
Yeah,
there are
of course
things
you learn
that,
in the process.
there are times that you feel like, oh, this is what I want, and you go into that space and you see that, oh, I really didn't have knowledge. There are a lot of men that are not taught what pregnancy really entails, basically because they feel it's not you teach the girl child, you try to educate her. Some girls don't even know. There are a lot of women that get married and they are just discovering pregnancy for the first time. They are clueless. Not talk of the boy child. So before you make certain goals, you need to have mentorship, knowledge, right?
Very good.
Given to you. And this is part of the things that maybe the parents teach. Maybe our parents feel it's, don't worry, when you get there, you cross it.
So let me just chip in here, because
expectations.
there are a lot of parents I've come across that have phobia. Let me use that word. They have phobia for talking to the children.
Reality.
Yes. Some don't know where to start. They don't know how to approach it. That's why I use the word phobia, because you can't be afraid of your children. You understand? But they are afraid of that conversation, which has to be held. And then talking about or answering what you said, we've identified these gaps. I said it in TVC and they were laughing. I said there are a lot of adults that don't have any business in the venture of childbearing. And they say, I call it a venture. I say, at this juncture, I call it a venture. They don't have any business in that venture. Well, we don't teach these things. There are things that we look at as taboo. Like a lot of parents can't talk to their children about sex education.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, the internet will. The streets will. So who is going to lose? Right? So, like I said in the beginning, you can't give what you don't have. You can't overemphasize that enough. So we have identified these gaps that a lot of people, a lot of young adults are going into unions without certain skills. Now, we don't necessarily have to teach boys about pregnancy, but there are certain skills that when they have, anything that confronts them, they will know what to do. So I give you an example. We teach them critical thinking skills. We teach them mindfulness. We teach them decision making. So when you have these three, we teach them much more than this. But with these three, anything that comes at you, if someone comes to you with a substance and say, drink it, you'll be mindful. Then you think critically, bearing in mind that you have goals. Oh, okay, this thing now, if I take it, what's the repercussion? I can run mental, I can lose my life, I can be in jail. Then you take a decision. So you've applied these three skills. So if you get married and your wife is pregnant or she's going through some pregnancy, blah, 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 you apply emotional intelligence, you apply empathy, critical thinking. What should we do? Let's go to the hospital, blah, blah. So there are certain nitty-gritties that you don't have to teach a boy or a man, but with those life and soft skills, they will be able to confront anything.
You know, there are boy children that see their mother do these things effortlessly and they feel like this is how it is.
Yeah.
There are men that say to their wives, are you the first person to get pregnant? I've seen my mother give birth to 7.
That's
You know,
ignorant
because
speaking.
the mothers made it look as if
It was easy.
it was
easy.
I think it was recent on the internet where, is it Cute Abiola came to celebrate his wife's delivery process. I think he was in the delivery room. And he made a post about it. Wow, women are trying. Then somebody came to comment. It became, a force on the internet. Then people came to comment and said, "Is your wife the first person to give birth? Why are you making a fuss? Some people they give birth to. Even animals give birth. I think that's what that guy said. Say even animals give birth. These are men. They've gotten to that point where they feel like you don't make a fuss out of these things, right? Maybe because my mother gave birth to 7. My mother gave birth to 8, and because of the mindset that it's a natural something, every woman must go through it. Why are you making it a big deal? They don't understand that there is room for you having empathy. Their mothers have not told them this thing I went. Sometimes they hide it from them because they want to appear strong to their boys, right? Just the way you would not want your children to get involved in your issues with your husband. So you want to just act strong, but there is that place of being vulnerable to your children. I understand that it might not paint a good image, but there are times that they need to understand that this is the reality of life. So that when they come across such situations in their own life, they would also not feel like they are failing when they respond to it, and they would respond better to it. So I think that there's a thin line between trying to hide or shield your children from your mistakes and letting them know the reality of being a human being.
Again, you can't give what you don't have. Most mothers were acting based on the knowledge the knowledge and what they know. This is how they, came, what they saw, and that's how they will act.
That's the way they were brought up.
They don't know any better. So, there are certain things these days that we let our children read, we let them know, we just discuss with them. But back in the days, it's unheard of. I was speaking to one woman and she said from where she comes from, oh, no, you don't send your son. He's king, he's this, you can't send him, you can't do this. That is what they grew up seeing. It's not like it's written anywhere or there's a grand rule that, boys have to be treated in a certain way. But it's culture. They grew up seeing it. And so they have to keep, the cycle needs to continue. But in this present
generation,
if we're going to embrace, everybody has embraced using a phone. Most people have bank accounts. You know,
Some don't have
the
bank
internet. Quite a lot, majority do. So if we're willing to embrace most of these new technological advancements and all, there are certain things that we cannot
change as well.
We cannot stick to.
Okay.
Because we have too many resources at our disposal.
All right, this conversation is, something that is a must-have, and it really shows that raising a boy child is not accidental. It takes a lot of intentionality.
Very true. And when we get it wrong at the foundation, we see the effects later in the society. Kike?
Yeah, but beyond how boys are raised at home, there are another major influence, society itself. We will take a short break now. When we return, we will be talking about toxic expectation and how to raise balanced men. Stay with us. For too long, women were told to stay quiet, to endure in silence, to face challenges alone. But silence never define us.
Women are actually one of the best peace builders you can come across because they will build peace in the home front, they will build with their children, they will build in the community, they will build at their meetings and in their churches.
Across Nigeria and beyond, women are breaking barriers, from entrepreneurs building thriving businesses to mothers transforming communities to everyday women.
Women's World celebrates all sides of womanhood. We share untold stories of women from pain to victory.
This is more than a show, it is a platform for women to be seen, heard, and to be empowered.
Every story matters. Every voice counts because women are empowered to change families, communities, and the nation.
Join us as we showcase women's untold stories.
From pain to victory.
This is Women's World on Global Television.
Your story, your health, your power. Welcome back to Women's World on Global Television. If you're just joining us, we've been having a powerful conversation and necessary conversation on raising the boy-child right, the role of women in building emotionally healthy, responsible, and resilient men. In our first segment, we explored the foundation, home bringing, emotional development, and the role of parents, schools, and mentors in shaping boys into balanced men. But the home, there is another powerful force we cannot ignore: society itself.
Yeah, because even when parents do everything right, boys are still shaped by what society tells them, when it tells them how a real man should be. And sometimes those messages are confusing, unrealistic, and even harmful.
So even in this second segment, we're shifting the conversation. We'll be looking at societal expectations, masculinity, pressures, emotional suppression, and how we can begin to redefine what it truly means to raise balanced men in today's world. And now, even when parents try their best, society often steps in with its own expectation, telling boys how to behave, what to feel, and what it is, or what is meant to be a real man. Still with us in the studio is Anna Hosseini Pai, founder and executive director of the Yagote Foundation. It's good to still have you with us on the program. A whole lot. We want to shift this conversation because the environment, the society we have as Africans, let's come back up to Nigeria and then we'll take it across the globe. The African mentality is that you are a man, be the man, be the king. They tell the woman, the man is your crown on your head. So for me, it makes the man feel less, it doesn't give him the room to be vulnerable. For women who go into relationship, when you're getting to have a prospective partner who's going to get married to you, I always tell them, try and let the man be vulnerable around you. Because when he's vulnerable, you can assess him, you can break through that masculinity and that toxic mindset that is turned by society. Within once he sees as a safe space, he can break down, he can cry. I tell my brothers, it's normal to cry. You're human first before you look at the African culture of I am a man. When you're in your safe space of your family, loved ones, and you need to please break down, because these things leads to depression. You know, a lot of illnesses comes up, and because they can't break down when they are pressured, it becomes something else, and they transfer the aggression to children, to loved ones. So from your job and what you do, how do you speak to the young man or the young boy child who's growing up to be able to understand the reason to be vulnerable in a safe space and break that toxic masculine mentality that the society paints men for?
Okay. So before I answer the question, I will make reference to what you said earlier.
Okay.
For most young women, at the point of marriage, you know, except you get an exceptional marriage counselor or an exceptional parent, maybe from either side, that knows better to advise you accordingly. Young women at that age will hardly even know about, you know, talking to the men to be vulnerable or to make them their safe space and all of that. You have to have probably gone through, you know, a certain course or, you know, that interaction with those people that, you know, knows better for you to, you know, explore all of those possibilities. So like some people will say, didn't you see the handwriting on the wall? And I'll say, don't judge. At that time, did you know what handwriting on the wall was?
Red flags.
Do you understand? Yeah, the red flags and all. But a lot of women didn't even know that such things exist. It's when they are inside the union already, and you know, because of maturity, because they are coming of age, you know, they say with age comes wisdom, and I absolutely agree.
True, very true.
It's very true. And you know, so as you grow, you begin to understand certain things, and that's when you know about red flags. You don't know about handwriting on the wall, but then it's already
gone past the time.
the time. So now back to your question. Like I always say, we teach these boys 24 lessons.
Amazing.
And these 24 lessons is to make them confident, resilient, and responsible men.
Okay.
For them to be able to tackle whatever comes at them. Because we're not just working on them to be good husbands. They are going to be leaders.
Fathers.
They are going to be bosses in the offices. There are some politicians, some will be professionals, whatever field. Then they will be husbands and fathers eventually. So the way we're grooming them is to be able to fit into any of these roles that they find themselves in. So emotional intelligence, for example. An emotionally intelligent person would know how to handle whatever situation they find themselves in. Somebody with that is mindful, you know, coupled with other skills, even when they are faced with a difficult situation and they don't know how to handle it, you know, because they have these skills in them, it will alert them to read about it, talk to a professional, seek guidance from somebody that is, you know, a mentor or whoever. You don't have to say you're handling everything yourself. You are not God. You can't be God. So you can't possibly know everything. One emotionally intelligent person would look for, okay, what are the possible way out of this situation? And then it could be, it could be ChatGPT. Just have an idea of what or how to handle it. I have a situation I'm handling. I've spoken to people, I've gone to ChatGPT. I'm adding all the resources together to see how best to tackle that situation. But then you have to know that you have those options.
Okay. I like to say that some of those things, especially in the marital, you know, relationship space, sometimes it depends on how you, the way you lay your bed. That's how you lay it. It's what you permit. Sometimes you live with it for a very long time. I remember when I got married, there are some things I said I'm not going to do. Well, I and my husband will do it together. I intentionally laid that foundation so that tomorrow, you know, there's no expectation that this is a man's role, this is a woman's role. As long as I am willing to support, do you understand? I expect that as a man, you also should go out of your way to support. But that is by the way. But there were situations where maybe my husband would want to help out.
and then people are looking at him. maybe we go out with the baby, or we just stroll with the baby. My husband is carrying a baby carrier, and the society is just turning, and then they are giving one bad eyes.
Exactly.
They are looking at me in a certain way. You could just feel as if they want to come and slap me because I'm giving. Maybe my husband is helping me to carry a baby, and you see how people call a kindness weakness. Especially when a man displays it, they want to talk down on you, they want to make you feel bad. At some point as a man, you want to just feel in control, and sometimes those things might want to get to you. So society has normalized kindness for weakness, especially when a man shows it. Okay. How do you talk to men out there? Even with
the bad carrying as well.
Two things from what you've said. I'm picking two things. So just hold on to confidence for me. I'll come back to it.
Okay.
It doesn't always follow, taking it from the beginning of what you said, it doesn't always follow that how you lay your bed, you lie on it, that, I started this, so it's going to be rosy all the way.
Okay.
You know better. Does the other person know better? True. I have a friend that got married, and she was like, we're going to have a joint account. She was so excited. I was like, babes, hey, two have become one, blah, blah, blah. She said,
sorry.
Your tent, Israel. And they started the joint account. And she was depositing, and he was withdrawing. He was withdrawing. She was depositing. He got to a while, she was like, what's going on? I was like,
So focus on it.
Nobody told her. She had to stop. So that was a bed she laid. And she
the matter is that it doesn't always come easy.
No, it doesn't.
The fact that someone says, I want this foundation, there are lots of things I would want to make you feel bad about it.
Sometimes you still remains that if you know better, it doesn't naturally mean that the other person knows better. That you have a conversation about certain topics with someone and they contributed does not mean that they fully understand
or want to go the same path,
or they want to go the same path. So that's why going back, those goals. Those goals, that's where everything is broken down.
Okay.
That's where you should have conversations about as many things as possible when it comes to your marital institution. Just the two of you, because what works for A mustn't really work for B. Then back to the second one.
You said you should hold on to confidence.
Yes. Okay. Confidence is one of the skills we teach the boys. Okay. As a confident man, putting into perspective some of the other skills, even if the man is carrying you on his head and people are laughing, rolling on the floor and doing whatever, he knows the reason why
he's doing
what he's doing. And there's nothing on earth that will move him to say, I'm feeling less of it. If any man feels less of a man because he's doing something for his wife and somebody is making jest of him, then there is a gap.
Okay. So society actually needs to do better, because no matter what, it will get
well, we'll probably get there eventually, but then we have to put in the work. Okay. People need to know better. You can't just know. Those skills are key. They're called what? Life skills, soft skills. I call them the glue that cements everything together. Okay. So I don't know if I gave this example, during the last interview, but I'll always say we go to the hospital and we see hostile nurses. Everybody have experienced it.
Yes,
now, these nurses went through the proper channel of academics, primary, nursery, primary, secondary, whatever institution you went to, whether it's a nursing school or the university, whatever, but they qualified to become nurses. But for you to be a nurse, empathy is the number one skill for nurses, right? But when you see a nurse, screaming and behaving in certain ways, it tells you that she doesn't have it. Knowing it is one thing, having it is another.
And also displaying it.
Displaying it.
Like I said that the other time, that when a boy doesn't have, when he's not raised with love, it shows in the relationship. It shows in the marriage. So how do we raise a boy to be respectful without superiority or resentment.
Without superiority.
Like that's a complex.
Complex.
You see, before I answer the second one, I'll say that there are exceptional cases of young men that grew up in abusive situations and not too palatable situations, but because of those external influences we talked about earlier, maybe another father figure, a role model, a mentor, whatever, they turned out better. They'll say, oh, my mom went through this, I don't want it repeated in my home. There are just few exceptional cases, right? And this complex of a thing is rooted in the individual's self-esteem. Self-esteem is one of the lessons we teach the boys. If you understand self-esteem as a human being, whether a man or a woman, there are certain, when they say you're walking and dogs are barking and you don't have to attend to all of them, when you have the right self-esteem, a lot of things won't bother you. So when you hear people saying things like, she feels like she's the best, he feels like he knows it all. Once you say that thing, check your self-esteem. Okay, there's a gap.
There's always a gap. Life as a whole does not come to us in the bed of roses. They say if you want something, you need to go for it. And then we've had boys who get transgenerational issues where the cycle tends to repeat itself back up. Like I said earlier, some family, there's like a trend of how the father behave. For instance, the father is a drunkard. They tell you it's one of the sons will pick up that character, and that happens to go from generation, and that comes. Then there's also the thing of harmful beliefs, where in our family, I was seeing a movie recently, and I saw that trend where in the family it is the male child who takes over every other thing and is practiced down. So a woman who has all female tend to suffer and struggle for inheritances and all that kind of culture, and it passes through generation. In a few minutes, because we don't have much time. Way forward, how will society, or how do you handle issues around such practices in terms of the mindsets of the young mind who has seen good and bad and needs to find his goal in the right direction and find the balance of his life and become the best man that you can define him to be?
So these are cultural issues.
Yes.
And for cultural beliefs, these are issues that have been ingrained from time immemorial. But we need men that, with the kind of skills I'm talking about, to begin to look at things fair and square.
Okay.
We taught the boys about beliefs and cultures and all, and I said to them, go back home, ask your parents what are your beliefs for your tribe and cultures and whatever it was. And one of them came back and said, in his village, pregnant women don't eat egg. Yes. So we teach the boys critical thinking. You need to begin to question certain things when you hear them, but you need to have the ability. So we teach them critical thinking. So when he said that, I was like, but a pregnant woman should eat, a lot of protein. And I said to him, do you know what? Maybe at that time they didn't have enough eggs to go around. So that was why they just had to, get some people off the egg list. So, it makes some sense, So, but my village now, they said to me when I was growing up, women don't eat gizzards. I started eating gizzard that time. So, and that's the only part I like in chicken. Before I finish the food, I would have eaten the gizzard because I said I want to see what will happen. And this gizzard thing, it revolves around a lot of cultures.
So,
but nothing actually. It's just because there's some people say, because the father is the head of the home, he should get the gizzard. I feel like gizzard today because I wanted to see. Because honestly, there's nothing.
Some say the anus is for the woman, the anus of the
chicken.
So I should not eat the better part of the chicken.
Some of these cultures. It's just for us to have a set of men that understand things from a different perspective. And they are, like I said, I am for gender
Equity, yeah, we talk about
so
it.
let's begin to look at things from that perspective, and I think we'll be able to change some of these.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate. As Women's World, we believe that raising the boy child right is not just a family duty, it is a societal responsibility, because when we raise emotional healthy boy, we build strong men, healthier relationship, and a more balanced world. We appreciate our guest, Anna Hussein Pai, for the impactful conversation. Thank you very much for coming. All right, this is where we draw the curtain on Women's World today. Join us again next week on Global Television, channel 365 on DSTV and 276 on Star Times. To stay connected, kindly follow us on all our social media platforms using @Global TV NG. I am Kike Lomo Kiri, alongside my co-host
Priscilla Obasi.
And Ali St. Patrick, thank you for always being a part of Women's World.
Bye for
Bye
now.
for now.